let me tell you this: is I made a list, guys. I watched part of the show, your live stream today, which was fantastic. By the way, thank you for all the people that tuned in and participated in that. You had people jumping in. We had John Ellis come in there, man. Like great, a great show. So thank you, Cody, for being there. I was at work, and I did tune in while I was watching.
No
but
problem,
I tried
brother.
to make, as I was watching the press conference, which I watched after your live stream. So I tried to go and watch the press conference and put away what I saw people talking about and just say, I'm going to watch this press conference and draw my own, hopefully with as least possible influence from outside noise to look at, or what to be happy about, or what to be sad about. And the first thing that stuck out to me, and this is, I guess, going back to a difference between the Matt Rule era and maybe his initial press conference and the Frank Reich one, is that I felt like from the get-go, Frank Reich was comfortable enough with himself, was confident enough with his abilities to where his ego did not need to be part of it or to get in the way. And the way I thought about it was this, is he talked about players, the team, and we. He didn't talk about me. Is it felt like this but I think there's a certain confidence you have to have when you're at this stage or at this moment, to where I always tell my kids is that if you try to be cool, you ain't cool. You're either cool or you ain't. If you're trying to be cool, you ain't cool. And I felt like Frank Reich didn't have to try to be cool. Like he didn't have to make this moment about him. He knew that he was capable enough to execute, or I think confident enough. And here is the moment that I really, not the first moment, the first of many moments that kind of set in for this. David Tepper comes up there and he says, "Oh, Anoush, you stole half of my speech. We're happy to be here. Let me get out of here before I say something wrong like I have every other time I've been on the mic for the last year and a half." Right?
He's learning.
Right?
He's
Like,
finally
he's like,
learning.
I gotta get out. Like he didn't even want to go up there. You could see he was like, I didn't think.
Now,
he wanted
Tony,
to go up
to be fair, he did answer questions to the media a little bit wrong. Yeah, he did.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he did his own.
Well, good for him. Good for him. I just felt like this is, and I'm actually trying to compliment him for that. Is get out of your own way sometimes. Get out of your own way. But here's the thing: is Frank Reich went up there and shook David Tepper's hand. Remember, you saw it. David Tepper goes, "Do you want to go this way or you go that way?" Frank Reich says, "I'll come to you. Let's shake your hand." But then he didn't walk up the steps. He walked all the way back to the players and shook every one of their hands. And he made that moment about them, not him.
Yeah.
And I felt like this is that I really felt this. I think it's a confidence thing, guys. I don't think I'm trying to say like, oh, he's like, oh, I'm going to make this all about y'all. I'm not trying to say he's like trying to kiss up. I think when you're comfortable enough in your own skin that you don't have to make it about you.
Yeah.
That's my first takeaway.
And you know what? So just to back off of what you just said, and yes, this is one of the differences between Matt Rule's press conference and Frank Reich's press conference, is there were players there and they were front and center. Those players included Jeremy Chin, Marquise Haynes, Ikem Ekwonu, Taylor Moton, Ted Jackson, and Brady Christensen still in the boot on a Neely scooter in the front row. And what's even better about that, Tony?
Sucking up, man. The Christensens are the best at their own PR, bro.
I love Christensen.
Wasn't Chuba Hubbard there? I swore I saw Chuba Hubbard was there.
Maybe he was. I don't know. This list might be a little incomplete, but
yeah, I think I heard someone mention that too.
Yeah, but one of the things that really stood out to me, not only so right when they introduced Frank Reich, the first thing that he does, instead of going up right on stage to start talking, he
goes and shakes their hands.
He goes and the players and shakes each and
It was
every
way out
one
of his
their
way,
hands.
too, guys. It was out of his way, because if you look at the way that Tepper was coming off, the way he went up, Tepper said this way or that, and Reich said, I'll come to you, shook his hand, and then could have walked up 2 steps to his right and just beelines it back to the players.
And then look, not only did he start his press conference that way, but the first people that he talks to as soon as the press conference is over is all his players.
His ego's not going to be a problem, bro.
You see him right here talking to Akim Kwanu, talking to Jeremy Chin, and a lot of these things, this is leadership stuff. Now, okay, and maybe if you're Bat Daddy, maybe you say, oh, well, he knows the cameras are there. He's hamming it up.
No, you have to be fair
genuine.
to Greg.
I don't want to be skeptical. This looks like
you have to do the right things. We can't be mad at people for doing the right things, right? It's like you have to shake the right people's hands. You got to kiss the babies if you're a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This signals to me that Frank Reich knows where his bread is buttered. He knows.
He said it. He said this is a players' league, bro.
He's going to live and die as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers on what the Panthers players feel and think about him. How many times last year did we talk about the difference between what Matt Rule gets out of the Carolina Panthers players versus what Steve Wilks was able to get out of the Panthers players? If you're able to motivate your team to play for you, that's a leader. That's a leader of our football team.
And you don't motivate people through fakeness. You don't motivate people with PowerPoints. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a PowerPoint. But what I'm saying is this is, and I tell my students this all the time, is that while you may not know a ton about early American history, which we are talking about in my classes, or you may not have a lot of experience in academics, like higher academia, you do know how to smell bullshit.
Yeah.
18-year and the idea is that while kids may not be nuanced enough to tell you exactly what is wrong, they know when it's fake. They do. And real motivation in my classroom comes through authentic excitement, authentic commitment, right? Is that that really like Steve Wilks, and I hate to bring up Steve Wilks in this moment because sadly he's not the man who got the job, is he said, I'm not here to be your buddy. I'm here to be your friend. Right. And so there is an authenticity that came off right away with Frank Reich's press conference that just felt like, I do think that the players will appreciate it. They will respect it. And go into the next part about it, I guess, continuing with that mantra of the players or his ability to work. This is where I got not a me thing. I'm telling you, I do not think that his ego is going to be a problem. And he just came from a organization where their owner is more fucking bizarre than ours. Right? Is that if you guys want to go and talk about how David Tepper is the problem and this or that, imagine what Colts fans are saying about Irsay, right? And the Chris Ballard, who is a power guy, he was able to work with them. And this is where I was very excited, guys. Not only was he making this about the players, he said right away, I'm going to fit perfect with Scott Fitterer. I'm ready to go to work with him. And I want to bring back this to you guys. When we hired Scott Fitterer, David Tepper, they let go of Marty Herney. Matt Rule was part of that process. There was division among Tepper and Matt Rule about who that guy should have been. And what we inherited with Scott Fitterer, I truly believe was not Matt Rule's pick. He said this, is that, look, David Tepper continues to say, it's like, we got a, separation of powers. But if you go back and look at Matt Rule's press conference,
Right.
After Scott Fitterer was hired, it was mild, measured, and distant. And I felt like today's press conference with Frank Reich freed Scott Fitterer. It breathed life into him. It breathed confidence into him. CK is, I think he's, what I wrote about him is that he works well with others.
What I felt with this is it did feel different. Now, here's the thing. Can I point out where it felt different? No.
Right.
And that's the part that I think people
Leave
are going to have a
that
hard
to
time.
me.
There's well, yeah, but I also think there's also a feel to it, right? There's a gut feeling. And when you see him speaking, there were a couple of times that I felt a little bit cringe about some of the things he was saying.
Like?
But when he was asked about the turf, I don't know that he was ever
we have
going
to talk about this. Did
We
y'all
will.
hear
We will.
that? Did y'all?
No.
I
hear
did. I did.
this? We have to talk about that. Go ahead, CK.
Yeah, I mean, just like even that part, like I think he knew what was being asked, and I think he almost was intentionally kind of approaching it in the like, I didn't understand you, so I'm going to answer in a different way. I also felt the tangent about the coaches have to be in charge, and even though that may be true,
That was the same answer.
it felt
that was the
awkward.
same
I
answer.
know, but it drew out into this really awkward, in my
Because
opinion.
I don't think he really got the question.
Even if he didn't get the question, I mean the way he took that was just a bit odd. It was a bit awkward. And I'm not gonna condemn him.
Was he wrong though?
He's not wrong, but I don't think that the players are right now. I think the main thing you've got to do is I think that there's some things you can just leave in house for the time being, and I think that's one of those things that he could have just given a coach answer.
He could have
on
answered it better.
Well,
could've
okay.
answered
Let
it
me ask
better.
you this. Let me ask you
I
this.
tell you how he answers it
No.
better.
I really want to ask this question, right? Was it? I mean, listen. Shout out to Jenkins. We love Chris Jenkins. Charlotte Vibe is the man. We've dubbed him the man of the people, and he is. He asks the questions that people want to know. But what exactly was he supposed to say right there? Because he's put in a position where you either side with the players or you side with the owner,
Or you just say less.
But listen, and it's certainly not about to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do what's right by the players, and we're gonna make sure that they get the right kind of turf." And you can't go the other way and say, "Well, no, I mean the turf is good the way it is."
Or you could just be honest. You could just be honest. And I tell you this is what this is the well, he tried to get there. I don't know if he fully understood the question. I think he got kind of flustered by not either he faked it, either if he faked like he's like
I
surface.
kind of feel like he faked it.
He's like surface, and he thought he's like, are you talking about a Microsoft Surface? Are you talking about the Surface? There is a question if he really is, how in tune he is with that actual conversation about the turf that we are, right? Is like, I mean, that's something that the Panthers have been living and the Panther fans have. He is getting to know this, or like, I don't know how much he knows about. He hasn't even talked to any players yet.
Right. He's got to have
it's not
time.
like players have been like this, but this is, I think his answer was at its core, it was correct. And that is, look, is we appreciate every man on the ship, but the owner of the ship is the guy who decides what kind of boat we actually sail, right? At the end of the day, that's a question that sadly is not determined by the players. That's not determined by the coaches, right? And what I think the only real better answer would have been is that when they asked him about why they believe David Tepper hired him, that's a better question for David Tepper. At the end of the day is, if I'm not in control of the 53 roster, and that's not what I'm here about, do you really think I'm fucking controlling what color cups you drinking about in the stands? Or is that like, wow, I understand that that's an issue that's important to players that may be relevant to this organization. It's a little bit out my introductory press conference waters. That's what I would have just said, is like, hey, I mean, like, whatever I believe on the matter don't fucking matter.
My whole point was that it was a tough question either way, because you're damned if you don't. And by
Or
the
you
way,
just take the
but
middle. You just take
no,
the
no,
middle. It's
no,
the Ask
but
David
Tony, no,
Tepper, bro.
no,
Just
no, no,
ask
no, no,
David
no,
Tepper.
no, you're wrong. If you do that, then it seems like a pure deflection. Like, nah, I'm
Because
not
it's
touching
not your
that. No,
decision.
but they're still gonna talk
That's
bad
like
about him
asking
for doing
me
it.
what my wife is gonna wear next weekend. It's
They're
not my
gonna say that he
decision.
was no, they're gonna say that he was too cowardice. He gave an answer that didn't say
Like
much
that.
of anything. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't scenario.
I think you're right, Cody, but not at this point. I think it's too early to make that judgment at this point. You know what I mean? Like you're right. What is he going to say in this situation? I kind of agree with Cody. Like he has no control over that. There's nothing he can really do. The best answer would have been, like he said, this is my, maybe give my thoughts on it or I have this about it, but I'm just walking in.
Remember when they
no
asked,
control over what's going on with it.
Look at what Lynn says. Take the middle and put everyone off.
No,
and I agree. I feel like that's what it is.
Do you guys remember this? Is my favorite president, and my favorite president of my lifetime has been President Obama. And I got to see him speak when I was in graduate school in his first campaign. He said this. He was asked one time, when did he believe the point of life was? And he was like, bro, at the end of the day, like, that's above my pay grade no matter what. Like, is that, and it wasn't a cop out. It was like, if you really are asking me to be the guy who informs this, we're not asking the most qualified person at this moment. Like, you can ask me different questions and I would have different opinions for them. And this was what I would end at the end of the day is like, let me just give you a counter example. I'm so tired of poor Ron Rivera. You know where Ron Rivera gets hired as a head coach? Wherever there is a fucking disaster of a situation that the owner doesn't want to talk to anybody. That's when they bring in old Ron Rivera. I don't know if you remember all the shit that we went through with Greg Hardy. Do you remember the Greg Hardy saga?
How could we not?
Like, yeah, I mean, missed a whole year in this limbo situation. Ron Rivera every week comes out there and he's like taking bullets for the league, taking bullets for the Carolina Panthers, taking bullets for Jerry Richardson. These are the guys that really are the people making those decisions. 2 years later, when the Carolina Panthers had to sell the Panthers in the Richardson leg shaving shame, Ron Rivera has to come out there and take all the whipping. And then the guy goes to the Redskins, who become the Commanders and the this and that. He's been through all of that shit. And I just look back at Frank Reich and say, the fucking field turf is not his decision. It would be like, do you not like the social media right now? I don't think it's a bad question, Cody, but I would at the end of the day say, that's like asking me what my wife should wear next Sunday. At the end of the day, what I fucking think about it don't matter. She's the one that's going to choose the dress.
I hear you, but just because that's the common sense answer doesn't mean that it isn't going to draw criticism from unreasonable people. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying
take a fake
that no matter
roll
what
that
he
grass
were
out.
to
That's
say,
what I played on.
No matter what he would say, it was going to be the wrong opinion in the eyes of someone. That's the only thing that I'm really trying to say here about it.
Lynn said this. Lynn said this, Cody. She said he was asked his opinion. Everyone has an opinion.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
I'm a big Pulp Fiction fan. I hope if you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, and you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, you got to go watch it. It's Tarantino's best film. Yeah, it is arguably it's my favorite screenplay. Like if we sat and read it, it would be, and then the fact that the actors made it important. Like I think the dialogue in that movie is incredible. And here is one scene after they kill all those people in their initial beginning over the burger. You get the burger scene. Oh man, that's a juicy burger. He drinks it and they're riding in the car. And Marvin is in the back seat. And they ask him, they're sitting there talking about, and I think they're talking about, I don't know if they go back to the feet, but they go back and Samuel and John Travolta are having a conversation in the car, and they're disagreeing. And John Travolta looks in the back, and he says, "Marvin, what's your opinion?" And this poor kid has watched his friends get murdered. He's riding with these two assassins, and he goes, "Man, I don't even got an opinion." And then John Travolta says this. He says, "You gotta have an opinion." He pulls the lint on him. And then he bumps his hand and blows Marvin's head off by accident. You don't have to have an opinion. Why can't we be Marvin?
You say that. That's just not how the world works.
Okay.
It's not how
I
the
was
world
saying-
works. Go ahead.
Don't be Marvin.
Yes, and
Don't
yes
be
and no.
Marvin.
Like when in this situation, I'm looking at what Lynn's saying. She's right about having because you do have to have an opinion, and it kind of goes back to your Barack Obama thing. Like I think there's a difference between asking somebody their opinion and then asking them choose what the thing is. Like
What if somebody?
when you ask Frank Reich, do you like turf or
Right.
grass? You're not saying make the decision now to choose what it's going to be. You're asking him his
What
opinion.
if I
Same thing
asked
with
you
Barack
if
Obama
Cody
and
was
the point
going
of
to
life.
heaven or hell, Greg?
Huh?
Yeah. Is Cody going to heaven or hell, Greg?
I mean, I
Can
think
you
Cody's-
not have an opinion about that question?
that depends on a lot of different factors.
Like, do you have to choose?
Yep.
What if you
Go
don't
ahead,
believe in
choose
heaven
right
or hell?
now.
Yes.
Choose right now.
What if, you
Choose.
don't, what if you don't believe in
Choose.
heaven or hell? Then how do you
1,
answer
2,
that
3,
question?
choose.
That's what I'm saying, Greg.
But
You
here's
don't
the
have
thing.
to
Here's
either
the thing.
like
You-
turf
you-
or not like turf. You could say, look, turf
But then
and
your- then your
grass
opi-
is
then
in
your
the
opinion
existence
is-
of the NFL, and we got to fucking deal with it.
But then your opinion is I'm indifferent to it. Like I have that is a situation where I have an opinion because I don't have any.
Okay.
So
All right. You're
No,
going
no.
to heaven, Cody.
But
Yeah, dude,
nonetheless,
let's go.
that
Did you hear him
entire
drop that one?
What?
He said,
But-
"Let's go" in the press conference.
Yeah.
He pulled the old dad reference. This
Yeah.
is like me talking to my kids. It was awesome.
Let's go. Yeah. I where he was talking about playing in the Carolinas and
It was awesome. It was a good
Uh,
moment. That might have been the most, candid moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There were just like I said, it was an awkward
care
press
about the
conference for me,
field.
but at the end of the
Really?
day, it was just awkward. Like it just didn't feel
Okay.
like it wasn't like one that's gonna I
Sure.
wasn't sitting there ready to run through a wall for the guy. Right. And that's okay. It didn't have to be. Sirianni's press conference when he was first hired was infamously one of the worst ones that he was
Yeah.
constantly criticized about. The
Good point.
introductory press conference means absolutely nothing with how he is going to be successful in this league. And a lot of the questions he's asked are going to be around his philosophies about whether he, what type of quarterback he wants to go after, whether
He
this
seems
is the
very
right way or this is the
flexible on
right
all
way.
of that, though.
He
I want to
was.
come back to your statement about run through the wall, though. CK
Sure.
is that really? When we say like at this level, when everybody is super pros, when people have been in the league longer than he has as a player, you know what I'm saying, have been,
Right.
he's like he said, a backup quarterback, but these guys are all super professionals,
Right.
right? They all prepare. They're all good on good. Is having a guy that is that motivation from the outside? Does it truly come in that over intensity, that rah moment, or can that leadership come in this? And he mentioned this is that he's had a couple of years where they didn't have good starts this season, and they figured things out. I think after his first season, they started out like 1-5, and then he finished 10-6 or something like this,
Yeah.
or whatever to the
They
effect
went on
is.
like a big win streak. Yeah.
And this is where, at one point I wanted Ron Rivera to be the guy when he was struggling early in his career. I wanted him to be throwing his clipboard. I wanted to be grabbing people by the face. I wanted him showing the frustration that I felt, because I thought that frustration meant intensity, commitment. But it turns out sometimes in this league, actually all the time in this league, it's the guys who are able to weather those bumps and bruises and to make you realize that the dice are going to fall the other way if you keep doing the thing right. And maybe those players don't need a guy who's rah, yell and scream, but a guy
Sure.
who is steady the course and smart enough that they go, you know what, I don't know.
Which is why my point is like that's okay. Like I don't need the coach at the very beginning to make me feel like, oh, we're winning a Super Bowl. I need him after the first season to make me feel like, oh, this is a better team than it was under Rule at any point in time, right? Like this isn't a scenario like Rule had, like we went, 5-11 the first year. It was his first year. We'll give him a break. No, he's got to come in here and perform immediately. Like, and this is
well, he's ready to. He said
exactly. And so that is
he's
what's
not
going
pitching
to
us
be,
this like, oh, trust me throughout this. Is he knows that this league is like the now. It's the not for long league. I think though, CK, one of the things that really resonated with me about the difference between him and Rule is I think this is that we truly saw the difference between like a AA pitcher and a major league pitcher. We saw the difference between, and they might not be, look, Frank Reich might not be Barry Bonds or Derek Jeter, or pick whatever Hall of Fame or baseball player you are that we want to make the comparison, but he's in the league. Like you can just tell he belongs, he knows this. I think that Matt Rule ultimately is not in the league. And I know he's not literally at this point. It almost feels like this. It feels like Matt Rule is a very, very good high school baseball coach.
Yeah, but
he's not good enough to be a coach. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, I can get guys, I can organize them, we can run the drills, and we'll be pretty good.
If you want to go back in time, Tony, there was only one person who had anything negative to say about Matt Rule's press conference in this panel right here.
It was Greg.
Yeah, and that was only one person, right? We all were like, "Oh, I love what he said here. I love what the press conference."
I was
so
duped.
Pointless.
I was duped.
It's so pointless.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't have to be duped today.
Yes, and I like that, but I also like what is going to be the most convincing. The first act Matt Rule had as a coach was to basically mislead us into thinking we were going to be playing under, like we were going to be keeping Cam Newton, and eventually he made the decision to move on from Cam Newton, right? That was his first act as head coach with all the power that he could possibly have. We immediately saw a negative like we all immediately felt negatively about Matt Rule. We learned that
it was about Matt Rule.
So,
and you know what? We've learned this on his his little tour afterwards, CK. Watch Bus In with the Boys. Watch this. It's about it. Matt Rule. He might not say it, but I think he believes it. So and maybe that's what college coaches truly have to be in a certain degree. Is like they're the coolest motherfucker ever. Is like they got to walk in that room and be bringing all them recruits home, and like everybody's grandma. So
all I'm saying right now with regard to this press conference, I watched it out of pure entertainment with no real intention of getting anything of substance out of it. Right. A lot of those things are going to be said exactly the same way by every single coach that's being hired by this is just a bit of a different situation because of the circumstances where he was previously here. What I think is going to be the most telling isn't just how we start the season, but what are his first decisions as a head coach, right? That is going to be the most important part of this. If he
can't win just 5 games next year.
No,
anything less than 5 games is a.
But Tony, if he goes and he trades for Derek Carr and we go into the draft,
I'm in on this. People hate me for this.
No. If we go that route again, where we are retreading quarterbacks, then Frank Reich is out, in my opinion. At that point in time,
it's not going that route again. It's actually doing that route the way it was really supposed to be.
Derek Carr has had one good season. Like you can look at his numbers and say that he's been a decent quarterback. He's had one season where he was considered a MVP candidate.
I got an argument for this. I have.
You are. I know. I agree with CK 100%. I mean, and by the way, he talked about quarterbacks a little bit in the pressure as well, and he's talking about what he looks for back. And while he did say ultimately you win on 3rd down, you win in the red zone, you win in under 2 minutes. He did say that whenever you have a quarterback, basically that can run I mean, he
Oh,
said
this is what I
something.
love about him, dude.
He
I
said
love him.
he said something to the effect of,
He said you
you
have
know,
to be mobile.
you're
That's the game.
no,
dude.
well, but he said you're a good team if you can run to the strong side. He said you're a Super
A
Bowl contending
championship.
team
He likes to
if
say a
you can run to
championship. He say
if you can run to the weak side. And to me, this
backside. Yeah.
it
Frontside,
speaks
backside, I think he said.
no weak side. It speaks
No,
to
remember
the
he
kind
used
of
I think he
to the
used
kind
the
of
attitude
coach.
of this is you got to win with your stars, yes, but you also have to be able to win in situations where you're not winning in those ideal. I think he said front side, backside. And what I think he meant was
I think
is
he
that the
said weak side,
backside.
strong side.
Okay. Well,
We'll
look,
have to
we're
go and look. I
chat,
think it
check
is.
us, fact check
Yeah,
us. Look,
yeah. Who's right? Tony
I
or
think he
Cody? I
said
think I'm
front
right.
side, backside, and like the front side stars. I think he said that. And what I think
I
he
thought
meant
he
by that
said
is
weak
like you're
side,
supposed
strong.
to be able to win. Like to win games, you have to have players that fucking go and get it. Right? You got to
Yeah.
have Jamar Chases. You got to have the Waddles. You got to have players that make plays. You have to be like the Eagles where you say, "Oh, we put these great players around him." But that's the front side. Like that's the out exterior. But at the end of the day, there's going to be moments when those plays don't fucking make it. They don't work because the other team you're playing is very good. So then you have to win in these kind of improvised ways. You know, it's like you just have to find ways to win. Look at what the Chiefs did this week against the Bengals.
Right.
Is like really the superior team lost.
Yeah.
And
By
the
the way,
inferior team made plays.
chat room is saying you are correct. And
Yes,
apparently
yes.
I've been watching too much Remember the Titans. Weak side, strong side.
And I think he meant
weak
that.
side.
And I think what he meant by that terminology, though, Cody, was less about where they on the. But I think it means this is that your star players are supposed to be stars.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Right.
you're supposed to go out there and get 100 yards receiving. You're supposed to throw 300. But you know what? There's going to be moments where we need you to play on a broken ankle and make that pass like Mahomes did, or where, you know, you've got to. And mobility makes ability capable. You know, it's just something that you can't. It's like, oh, we needed that first down. I don't give a fuck how we get it. We needed that first down, and being able to run to the mark helps.